Hello, my name is Michael Knipp, and I have a book report today about the book Breaking Dawn, the fourth book and the final book in the Twilight Saga. Thank you for joining me. If you have not heard my previous lectures on this story, they can be found in a playlist that I will link both above my head and it may be also in the description down below if I remember. Please note that this series is filled with spoilers as they are my actual live reactions to what happens in both the book and the movie. I apologize for punching my microphone. I've been doing that a lot more lately. My presentation will begin in 3, 2, 1. Breaking Dawn, Part 1. Yes! You could have thought that I would break it up into 2 parts because I didn't want to talk about both movies at the same time, so I've broken up the book and the movie section into 2 parts. I'm going to be covering Part 1, as I already said, and Part 1, the movie. This book has the craziest turns, as the highest highs and the lowest of lows. We will start off with the beautiful, something that I did not expect, and then we'll immediately turn to heartbreak. First of all, Bella's getting ready for the wedding. Da 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 da. Edward and Bella are finally getting married. It's been so long. They've been through so much, and the whole time they're getting ready for this wedding, and I think that Alice might actually be more excited for their wedding than they are, which, now that I'm thinking about the weddings that I've been to in real life, that probably happens more often than you might think. Not Alice, but like the other people in the wedding are more excited than the couple sometimes. Not for me, though. I was the most excited for my wedding. Amanda? Nevertheless, I'm scared this whole time leading into this wedding because I think that it's going to go horribly wrong. Most things do for Bella. And while we're dealing with this wedding thing, we have to face something that's incredibly tragic. At the end of the last book, you may remember that Edward decided to, well, we never really fully determined whether it was a nice move or a jerk move, but he sent Jacob an invitation to the wedding after Bella's like, I do love you, but not enough, while Jacob's, freaking half dead in a bed. And it's too much for Jacob to handle, so he goes wolf mode and leaves. He's trying to follow Michael Bolton's advice. He knows that when love puts you through the fire, when love puts you to the test, nothing heals a broken heart like time, love, and tenderness. But dude is ditched. Everyone's missing him. He's gone. He will not answer phone calls because he's a wolf. And last time I checked, no. I saw this thing that, like, kids these days, when they gesture for phones, they do this instead of this, which does check. I don't know if it's real or not. Kids, if you're a millennial watching this, do millennials watch this? If you're a millennial watching this, do you do this for phone or do you do this for phone? Phones don't look like this anymore. Please answer me. I also just said millennials. I meant Zoomers. I'm a millennial. Hi. Anyway. The wedding is planned. The wedding goes well. The wedding is beautiful. It goes off without a hitch. It's wonderful and it's sweet. And I just didn't expect it. It was a lot of fun. It went really well. There was good moments between Edward and his brothers and Bella and the sisters. They have some bonding. It's so beautiful. It's so sweet. There's Charlie and there's Renee and they all come together and she has a good moment with her dad and her mom, which is sad because she's going to become a vampire and leave them and just disappear forever. And then to top it all off, Jacob shows up at the reception. She gets to have a little rendezvous with him and he's got everything under control. He's so sweet until they're having such a sweet little conversation and Jacob's like, I'm glad I got to see you. It's your last night as a human. And she's like, this isn't my last night as a human. And Jacob's like, well then, how are you going to enjoy your honeymoon if you're still human and your big lover boy is a rock? Nope, don't say anything. Is a vampire. She's like, yeah, we're still gonna do it, not that it's any of your business. He's like, he's gonna freaking kill you. He's a monster. There's just, I mean, yes, he's a monster in bed, but you know what I'm saying? He's gonna kill you if he try to consummate the relationship and he's a monster and you're a human. Yeah, you're gonna die, which is what Edward has been afraid of the whole time. He's like, it's gonna be so hard because frick, this is so hard. Dang it! I hate myself. Jacob thinks it's going to be difficult to not kill her. This is so weird. How do you talk about this? Jacob gets super mad because he thinks that Edward is going to love Bella to death. And he has to get pulled out by his werewolf brothers. They go on the honeymoon. They have a secret honeymoon. Nobody knows where they're going. And they go to a special private island for their honeymoon. It's a beautiful tropical island where they have their own massive, sweet, like, house to themselves. It's a beautiful, perfect island honeymoon getaway place. Bella is nervous. Edward is probably nervous because, you know, the dangers involved. But they decide to go through with it. And it fades to black. And it wakes up. They wake up in the morning to one of my favorite... Okay, let's just get... Okay, so they wake up in the morning. Bella's happy. She's like, that was the most wonderful night of my life. It's like she's you know, she passed out. She's having all these memories. She's like, this is wonderful. She wakes up and Jacob's like, I'm so sorry it went like this. And she's like, what? And he's like, look at your body. And she's covered in feathers first. The feathers thing, that's what I want to talk about. Put a pin in the feathers. She's like, oh, and then she realizes she's covered in bruises because
Edward
hurt her because it was too good. So he didn't kill her, but he did hurt her and he feels very bad. And that's, you know, it is what it is. But then Bella's like, why are there feathers everywhere? And Edward's like, hold on. So Bella's like, what had happened to me? I couldn't make sense of the fluffy white snow that clung to my skin. I shook my head and a cascade of white drifted out of my hair. I pinched one soft white bit between my fingers. It was a piece of down. Why am I covered in feathers? I asked, confused. He exhaled impatiently. I bit a pillow or two. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening to this audiobook and I laughed out loud. Because I'm like, what is the normal course of events where this happens? So you just... I'm sorry. We're like, you just rip a pillow apart with your teeth? What the crap? Why does that happen? I just... Why did she put this? Stephanie, why did he bite a pillow? Okay. So then Bella's mad because it's the most wonderful thing she's ever experienced. And Edward's mad because he hurt Bella. And she's like, now I'm mad because you're not enjoying this. And they're like, well, you didn't like it. And she's like, well, I loved it. And then she's like, well, you didn't like it. And he's like, I loved it. And whatever. He says that he's not going to do it again. And then she's like, but this is our honeymoon. At this point, we start seeing some weird symptoms from Bella. She starts eating a lot. She just like starts eating eggs for days. She needs that protein. Eventually, she wakes up in the middle of the night with a dream. She's crying. Edward's like, hey, why are you crying? And she's like, I had a dream. He's like, what was it so scary about? And she's like, it wasn't scary. And then basically she dreamed about them, you know, hanging out together again in the intimate way, and then they do it again. And then they decide that it's okay because he's better that time. Instead of hurting Bella, he destroys the furniture that they're on, which, frankly, sounds a lot more reasonable than biting a pillow. But who am I to judge? But weirdly, some other stuff starts happening because Bella starts getting a little sick. She starts eating stuff, and then she's struggling, and Edward comes to her and is like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, I don't feel good. And then she's like, wait, crap, how long have we been here? And she realizes that she's late for her cycle. So we've had this wonderful wedding. We've had this honeymoon. And then we have this thing where Bella's like, I'm pregnant. And Edward freezes. And I, in my head, you know, experiencing the story for the first time, I'm imagining Edward going through the processes that I went through when I realized that Amanda and I were pregnant. Namely, especially with my second son. So, like, Edward stays frozen while Bella's starting to realize the implications of her being pregnant. It reminds me of when Amanda was pregnant with Charlie. She told me, and I was not necessarily mentally expecting it. We were living in a small house. We had a lot of things that needed to change if we were going to have a second child. Note that we were wanting this second child. We were planning on it. We just didn't expect it to happen so fast. So when Amanda's like, hey, you know, when I realized what's going on, there was a whole elaborate setup. I'm like, oh. And then I sat back and I froze for like 30 minutes while I had to make some mental plans with how we were financially going to make this work. Because I had been expecting, I thought it would take longer. So I'm thinking Edward is like, oh crap, I'm a dad now. All of these things are like going to change. I'm expecting Edward to be all happy. And then like the first thing that he's like, we gotta kill this thing right now. And we're like, whoa. Edward, my dude, what? Alice gets a vision of things going bad, and so they call, and Edward's like, we gotta get this thing out right now. And Bella's like, she has now become attached to Nudger, the baby Nudger, her baby in her belly, which she can already feel. I don't know if you know much about pregnancy, but that's weird. She should not feel a baby kicking it that early. At this moment, I would like to point out some of this Twilight logic bullcrap that we see here. We've established that Edward's sister Rosalie wants to have a child, but vampires cannot have children. The reason given in this book is that because women's bodies need to change to be able to have these children, but vampires' bodies are locked in time and space, she can't get pregnant because she doesn't go through the cycle and her body can't change to accommodate the new baby. The reason is then given that because men's bodies don't really change like that, and men can be fertile when they're, super ancient, they might still be able to get a human pregnant. That's how they try to figure out if this could happen. I would like to refresh the memory of the listener/reader of these books that vampires don't have blood, their hearts don't beat, they don't need to breathe air. It is presumed that their bodies do not function, and I want to just state real quick that like the female vampires' bodies, Edward's body should not be continually doing the processes that make him fertile. That should have stopped. That is something that has to be refreshed the same as most other bodily functions, but for some reason it doesn't happen to the male vampires. So it took me for a loop because I'm like, hey, that shouldn't work still. Never mind. So Bella's pregnant, and Edward is like, we gotta kill this thing, and all the other people are like, we gotta kill this thing because it's gonna kill Bella. And then I want to use this time to talk about the fact that there have been something in the past called immortal children, where vampires made babies into vampires and they never grew up because the vampires stopped aging. The babies started killing everyone because they're babies and they're rage monsters, but they never aged, but they were super strong and super fast, and they were bloodthirsty as crap. It was very bad, and the Volturi had to come in and kill everyone. So, the first thing that is probably in all these people's head is that it's going to be an immortal children. We have to understand a little bit of why Edward is like, we're going to kill this thing right away, instead of being like, oh, I'm a dad now. But, he doesn't want Bella to die. He doesn't want this monster to exist. It's just a little bit extreme, dude. But Bella's like, I love my Lil Nudger. Lil Nudger is going to be my baby. It's going to look like Jacob. And she, goes immediate mom mode biological reaction, right? I thought it was actually really sweet as someone who's been married to a woman who has had 3 children. I thought Bella's perspective was really cute, even though maybe she might have a monster inside of her belly. Womb? We'll say womb. So she's like, I gotta protect this thing, so who does she call? Rosalie. Because she knew that Rosalie would be on her side. Edward's like, we gotta leave the honeymoon and go back to my dad because he's a doctor, he'll know what to do. Rosalie's like, I'm gonna protect you, I'm gonna protect this baby. And they have this family conflict, and then they go away. The end of the first part of this insane book. And then we begin another roller coaster part of this book. We get to experience an entire section of book from Jacob's perspective. And whoa, boy, does that start off with a bang, because we've now seen the sweetness of the wedding, the sweetness and hilarity of the honeymoon, and now we go right into angsty Jake's brain. Jacob is just this hot-headed idiot teenager, and yeah, we know this, but seeing it from his perspective is just a blast to being a 15-year-old idiot teenager myself, but cranked up to 10. I realize now that Stephanie Meyer knows how to write both sides of the freaking spectrum of super emo girl to super idiot raging teen boy. And oh man, the title, okay, hold on. Let me start with the preface. Preface. Life sucks, then you die. Yeah, I should be so lucky. So Dude, he's so mad. The chapter titles are also great. The first chapter's waiting for the dang fight to start already. And he's fighting, like he gets in a fight and breaks one of his werewolf brothers' nose. He's mad. He's like the angry biker boy, and he finds out that Bella was not killed by sexicide, and so he decides he's gonna go kill all of the Cullens by himself. But he gets there and he realizes that Bella's pregnant, and he's like, dang, we gotta get rid of this baby. And Edward's like, don't you think we freaking tried this? And so then, okay, this is a dark moment that it's like one of the first moments where I'm like, come on, why is this in here? Which is like, Edward and Jacob have a private conversation. So like, Jacob wants to kill Edward. Edward is just completely distraught because he knows that something that he did is going to get Bella killed, which is getting her pregnant. And he's like, I didn't know Bella wanted a baby, but now that I know that she wants a baby, Jacob, can you convince her to let us kill this baby, and then you can give her a regular baby? Like, you can be her steed. And Jacob's like, frick, I guess I can be used that way, huh? And I'm like, why is this conversation happening? Why does Edward think that would be okay? Who thought this was... that's not how people work. That's not how babies work. That's not how relationships work. That part is so bad, and it's so bad and awkward and freaking insane that in the movie they just take it out. It's a weird chunk of this book where they're like, yeah, we'll just have this weird little relationship where we just use Jacob as a stud to make your baby because this baby's... It's just so stupid. Edward, you know that's not how Bella... She wants your child, dude. Do you not get this? Oh my word, it's so stupid. And the movie knows it's so stupid to where they don't even address it. They don't bring it up at all because it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That is not my Edward, my dude. What is... Moving on. So Jacob wants to kill the baby and the Cullens. Then he realizes that Bella is potentially going to be able to maybe... supposedly last chance hope, have this baby, and they'll be able to save Bella at the end if her heart is still beating by turning into a vampire after the baby is delivered. This is crazy, but like he goes back to the wolf pack, and the wolf pack's like, oh, this is a monster baby, we have to kill the Cullens now, which was like what Jacob was at. But then Jacob switches, is like, well, we can't kill Bella and we can't kill the Cullens, they didn't do anything wrong yet. So then he's like, we can't do it. So then he breaks off from the tribe and becomes his own tribe leader, which we know he can do because he has the bloodline. It's this whole thing, and we get the werewolves split into two packs where Seth, Jacob's like bro from the fight in the last one, becomes... They start protecting the Cullens, which is like, we get a lot of soap opera drama where we get to see Jacob hate the Cullens but like Bella, but Seth loves the Cullens, and they're just trying to protect Bella from the werewolves. And it's this whole thing, but they do a very good job of manipulating that relationship. There's a lot of drama. Leah Clearwater joins their side because she wants to be with Seth, and she wants to be away from the object of her imprint, of Seth's imprinting. And that's when I realized that I have not talked about imprinting in this video series, because I was hoping against hope that we wouldn't need to, because imprinting is the worst thing that Stephanie Meyer has put into this series by far. Imprinting is when a werewolf gets a instant bond attraction at first sight to someone that they immediately love forever more than anything. Which is, it is what it is. It happened with Sam, the leader of the werewolves, where he was in love with Leah, and it was wonderful, and then he saw this other chick, and then he imprinted on her, and then they fell in love, and that's why it's so hard for Leah to be over there. The weird thing is that you can imprint on a child, and when you imprint on a child, it is purely paternal, and then it just stays that way until they're old enough to be mature, and then it switches to being romantic. And there is so much wrong with that sentence, and we can't talk about it. We cannot talk about how weird it is. I don't know why. The connection I try to make is like, okay, they're werewolves, maybe it's like a dog, right? Dogs bond with people. Dogs are like very loyal to... Sometimes they pick a very specific person. If you were to tell me that a werewolf could bond to a child and then become like their lifelong guardian, and then when the child grew up, they would go get married, and then they would just be like their cool uncle or grandpa. I would be all in for that, and that would be kind of cool. Why does it have to get weird? Why does it have to get weird, Stephanie? Put a pin in that too. So we get to see a lot of like drama unfold as the werewolves are trying to like not be their own. Jacob doesn't want to be a leader of his own pack, but he is a leader of his own pack. They're trying to protect the vampires from the other werewolves. They hate the Cullens, but the Cullens are trying to be nice to them because they realize they're doing them a massive service. Bella her body is falling apart because she can't sustain herself nutritionally. The movie does an amazing job at portraying this. I didn't understand that special effects were good enough to handle this at that point, but Bella is like, her belly's getting massive. She's like skin and bones. Like, it's really creepy and disgusting. It's a very disturbing pregnancy until it helps a little bit when they realize that since the baby is half vampire, she can drink blood. And the way that the movie handles the scene where she drinks blood and Jacob's revulsion, I thought it was weird, really good, and done better than the book wasn't bad. It was just really good to see that. And like, I'm normally the guy that says adaptations do everything worse, and there's a lot of things that the movie does do worse, though ignoring some of the weird stuff or changing some of the weird stuff, is better. But actually, that scene worked really well visually, I thought. Bella drinks the blood and it helps sustain her a little longer. Meanwhile, the baby's growing insanely fast and breaking all of her bones from the inside. It's getting very dangerous. The baby is also growing insanely fast. And this is where I would like to bring up a second insane point about this pregnancy, which is, I understand why they would not want to try to turn Bella into a vampire while she's pregnant with the baby, because they share this blood, obviously. So if they were trying to turn Bella, then it could just make an immortal vampire baby, like the evil kind that we already know about. But they know that this creature is different because it's growing. So we already know this, we're dealing with something different. We also know this baby is growing insanely fast. They can't necessarily judge how fast, but I want to bring to mind something, and I know I'm bringing something in real life, and this is something that I know because my wife, she loves childbirth. She's obsessed with babies. She loves everything to do with this. So I know a lot more about like the childbearing cycle, I think, than the average dude. But let's just bring this up here. The age of viability for babies is growing better all the time. And Carlisle is a super vampire doctor. They could have cut that baby out of there early, and it probably would have been completely fine. If they had to cut it out hard for Bella, they could have transformed her right then. That's why I don't understand why they waited so long. They could have cut, and the baby would have been fine. Nudger would have been fine. Speaking of Nudger, she decides to name it. She says, if we're having a boy, we will name it EJ, which of course we can determine means Edward Jacob Cullen. Edward Jacob Cullen. She names her baby after her husband and her lover, but not lover. That's a little strange, but also I guess it's her best friend. I mean, if I were Edward, I probably wouldn't love that middle name. I mean, I probably would have preferred almost any other name on the face of the planet, but Edward's a compromising sort of dude. And then she's like, but if it's a girl, I want to give, so she's like, if it's a boy, I want to name this baby after my husband and my lover. If it's a girl, I want to name it after my two moms as if they were a romantic couple. She's like, my real mom, Renee, and my mother-in-law, Esme, if I have a girl baby, I want to name it their couple name. How about Renesmee? And everyone's like, all right, cool. And nobody questions it. And that is, Renesmee is not a real name. Moving on again. Where was I? Rosalie and Bella become besties. Jacob makes a lot of, he has a real frenemy relationship with Rosalie, and it's fun. It's so much fun. Bella's drinking all the blood. The werewolves decide that they can't fight each other, and so they become friends. Everything's going fine. And here's where I have to talk about the movie again briefly. The movie, okay, I already gave the movie some praises. I think there's some things it does really well. I think it portrays the pregnancy and the disturbing nature of what it does to Bella very well. I think I've already talked about how cool the werewolves, some of this stuff is. Though because it's a movie, I don't like the fact that they have to have the werewolves have a lot of conversations in human form. It's cooler when they have it in wolf form, because they're actually forced to have conversations they don't want to have, because they can read each other's minds instead of saying things that would normally be private as if it were not. It's kind of dumb. I hate how they have to have a lot of their werewolf conversations in human form, and then they just say it willingly instead of like having to deal with the angst of being in each other's brains. The biggest thing that I hate about like the characterization of what they did with this movie is they felt the need that during this pregnancy for there to be a main antagonist, so we have to like actually have the werewolves come to fighting each other, which actually changes the entire dynamic of the wolf tribes. It changes the dynamic of the wolf hierarchy, when like there's a whole thing in the book where like Jacob, because he is of the bloodline, gets to actually control the treaty, and like Sam respects that, and like they don't want to fight each other, but in the movie they're like, yeah, we'll just come to blows. And I hate the fact that in movies, because they're aiming for the demographics they do, and the demographics that they aim at have different attention spans and whatnot, I hate that a lot of times they just have to invent crap in adaptations that doesn't exist so there can be some kind of conflict. I hate it so much. I think it makes things actually actively worse. I think it mischaracterizes the werewolves and the Quileutes, and I hate it so much again. But we're nearing the end of this, and I'm so tired, because what comes next is just the most baffling thing of all. So Bella has a mistake. She falls, and the movie is very disturbing. She like snaps her spine while she's falling, and then the placenta detaches and they have to cut the baby out. Carlisle's gone hunting, so Edward has to do it. Rosalie tries to do it, but when she cuts it, the blood almost makes her eat Bella, so she has to leave. So it has to be Edward. So Edward cuts the baby out. The baby is then given to Rosalie, who is okay because she really wants a baby. And then Bella is dying because she's mad injured from this pregnancy. So then Edward tries to turn her into a vampire, but her heart may or may not be beating anymore. He like has to do chest compressions himself. Jacob is convinced she's dead, and he just leaves. He's like, well, this is the end of her life. I had made a promise to Edward that if she dies, I'm going to kill him so that he doesn't have to live with this pain. But he decides to be like, screw it. He deserves to live with this pain. He killed Bella. He let this happen. So he leaves. And then on his way out, he's like, I'm gonna kill this baby because this baby killed Bella, and this is my job as a werewolf. I'm also very, very angry at this baby. So he's like, I'm gonna kill this baby, and he sneaks up on Rosalie, and Rosalie holds the baby up. And then he saw her face, and he imprinted on the baby. So I guess Jacob is now eternally bonded to Bella's baby. And in the movie, they really emphasize only the fact that he's going to guard her and protect her, which is, it's fine. She lives in a chaotic world. But we all have, if we've read the books, even if we haven't read the books, we've seen other objects of imprinting. We know what this means. And I want to have this conversation. Up to this point, I've made some fun with Stephenie Meyer, but mostly I've considered Stephenie Meyer genius. And this is where I cannot fathom what was going through her brain when she decided to make this an option. She's like, I want to write a way out of the story where Jacob doesn't have to be sad forever. And I want him to be able to be friends with Bella and Edward and whatnot. And I don't want him to be sad forever because I might want to give this book a happy ending. So she invents imprinting. And imprinting is like this thing where he just irrevocably falls in love with someone else. In the book, at one point, he just goes around and he goes to a big city to try to find somebody to imprint on to escape the sadness he had from missing out on Bella. And he doesn't get an imprint on one of them. Why, Stephenie Meyer, did you have imprinting so that they can imprint on children and then it get weird when they grow up? There is no justification where that is cool. Like, I don't understand. Why? In the movie, it's a CG baby that's a weird hybrid of like Edward and Bella's face, and he looks at this baby and it like freezes time, and it's like, I'm convinced at this point that the only thing that makes logical sense is that Stephenie Meyer was writing these books, and some group of Team Jacob must have been the worst toxic fandom for Twilight that existed in history, and she decided that she was going to get back at them in the most savage way possible and write this into this book. I don't freaking understand it. Why did you have to do this to my boy Jacob? Do you remember New Moon? Do you remember what happened in New Moon? Do you remember how sad I thought Eclipse was? Why did it do this? Why? That's how the movie ends and the book ends. I mean, Bella turns into a vampire. Sorry. That's how the movie ends and the book ends. Why? The book tries to play it off all vague, like, did he really imprint on her? I don't know, but we all know. We all know, and the movie just shows it to us. I don't have it in me to talk about this anymore. I don't understand. This is so weird that we've had so many highs and so many lows, so many fun things, and then so many weird things. And this pregnancy, oh yeah, the baby's name was Renesmee. It was a girl. Congratulations. I just don't. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see me react to part 2, which is just a whole other thing. Part 2 is so different. Please remember to subscribe and hit that like button if you like this video. I will be already reading Midnight Sun by the time that you see this video. So if you're looking forward to that, also please remember to subscribe. If you want to be able to support what I do on this channel, there's a Patreon linked down below where there's a bunch of other ways to hang out. There's also a Discord channel that is available even if you are not able to financially contribute. It's been a blast talking to people in there. That is a lot of fun. How did you guys react to this? If you were a Twilight fan who was reading these books, how did you react to the imprinting? What was the general consensus? If you like didn't read the books and you went and you watched this movie, let's just assume you went into this movie blind. How did the audience react when this happened? How did the audience react to any of this? I want to know what the firsthand experience was like. I just do. I asked Amanda what she thought of the movie. She was like, that was really weird. And it was. It's a weird movie. It's a weird movie. I just don't even know what's going on anymore. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a good day. Please, please, please give me insight into what the heck everyone was thinking when this happened back in the day. I love you all. Bye.
No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep. No one ever get enough. Always looking out tired, sleep. No one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.